128, where I apparently am gaming to start this. I'm just finishing. I've been playing through Modern Warfare 2's campaign again, so I'm just playing through like the mission where you invade the kind of snow base. So I'm just doing that to start off. I'm kind of finishing on the bit with the level where you're on the kind of snowmobiles, and I'm gonna do that, finish it off, and then we're gonna actually get into what this live is about. So this live has unfortunately been dealt a bit of a blow. It can't be what I originally wanted it to be, just due to some work commitments that have come up. But all that aside, I still plan to do like an hour, 45 minutes to an hour of a stream. Even if all I accomplish is getting like the basics done to that episode 1 shelf, like clearing away all the other stuff, and I don't even get the sets fixed, that's fine. It's only one set that needs like severe repairs, the Sebulba Pod Racer. I do need to replace those parts on the gun sub, but I'm thinking about just making that into a short, which I've not made for a couple of days. I need to get some shorts on the go again. Oh, I went right into a tree with that snowmobile. That's not... And I've done it again. I crashed into the other snowmobile. This is unreal. And again, I don't know how I accomplished that. I really don't. I'll move over here. Okay, there we should be good. Until I hit a tree again in a second. Alright, we've cleared all trees. And I've done the jump. Brilliant. And there's a Chinook there ready to pick us up. That's another achievement. I've got the achievement Cold Shoulder. That's great. I don't see myself playing the next mission. I'm sure the next mission's one of the more slightly annoying ones. When we are in kind of Brazil and you do all that stuff, which is not fun. I'll check the achievement and see what it is. Find Rojas in the favelas, oh god. Defend Burger Time, storm the Gulag, execute the plan to help the Americans, take back Whiskey Hotel, assault Makarov safe house, complete the mission, airplane graveyard, complete the single player camp. Okay, right, cool. So it's not the one that I thought it was. Alright, that's fair enough. In fact, isn't the mission No Russian next? If the next mission is No Russian, I might do it. It is No Russian. Do you know what? I might just get... Do you know what? No, I want to get into the LEGO side of things. This is the infamous mission in Modern Warfare 2 that you could skip. We're just going to game just now. Go back to the main menu. So, in last night's stream, I had a comedian on the background, a guy called George Carlin. I got copyrighted for that, so we will not be doing that again. I don't know why I thought that'd be a smart thing to do, but I don't know. At the time, it seemed like it'd be kind of cool just to have something like that, just playing in the background, because, why not? Anyway, I suppose I'm turning this off for now. I'll put some normal stuff on in the background that isn't, copyrighted. Again, I should have known beforehand, but I wasn't particularly thinking that one through. But hey, we all screw things up. So we're gonna get ready to actually do what we're live to do, which is clear that bottom shelf. This room has more or less been 3 weeks in the making, and I've still not got it complete. I like to think that after today we'll be 50% of the way there. Now, what did I do with this damn controller? Because I knew I was holding it earlier, because I moved it. There we go. And of course, I've just got to switch the sources over on the TV. But, yeah. The reason you couldn't hear the Call of Duty is I didn't want to get, copyright, because you know how it is. But the goal was to basically have, even if the sets are not fixed, just the episode 1 stuff on the bottom shelf, because I'm having this shelf be by what movie the things are from. So that's the general plan of today's live, but because I have to go back into work today, that's going to be a little bit disrupted. Right, 1 second. I'll try and go for like a full hour of streaming. I mean, I've got half an hour to charge my phone before I have to go back to work, so that kind of worked out really well for me. Plus, it means you guys get an hour of content. Right, YouTube, I'm just checking a thing on friend on Xbox. I sent me something. But the bottom shelf really will just be the Gungan sub and the pod racers. The Naboo speeder, that kind of thing. A Phantom Menace is not something I've got a whole bunch of the things for, so it'll be quite easy to get done.
Today we're going to pay a visit to Moorgate. Now, I have talked about this station before, but largely in the context of the tragic accident that took place there in 1975. Today,
Right, so let me show you where we're at.
Quite a history of the station.
So, that's kind of just a big Imperial shelf. Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back, A New Hope, Revenge of the Sith, again, work in progress. Attack of the Clones. Today we're going to be focusing our attention on all of this and getting it organized.
Duels were fought outside of the city jurisdiction. Later, Moorfields was the site of hot air balloon ascents. Now, if you know your underground stations, you might have realised that these events are commemorated
So let's get started on
different
this.
Station, Finsbury Park.
So I'm going to have everything out in front of me for this to work. That's kind of just how it'll be. Yeah,
so that's a bit embarrassing. By the 1860s, the fields were gone, and so, largely, were the city walls. The urban sprawl had engulfed the area. In fact, London was large enough to justify the construction of the first ever metro. This metro was more metro than any other metro, being as how it was
This will not be fun, this will probably take a while.
Metros were named after. It was the Metropolitan Railway, which opened in 1863 and ran from Paddington to Farringdon. This was the first ever underground line, although it operated more like a conventional railway than a modern subway. That is, rather than being segregated from the main lines, it was connected to them. In fact, it's
so this is like all the crap that was on each of these shelves. It's going to trickle down, and we're getting on to the last of it.
Above ground. The fact that the company even operated trains of its own was a complicated historic accident. More on that shortly. The company was evidently pretty confident in their prospects because they were making plans to extend to Moorgate back in 1861.
So I'm wanting to do the room tour video very soon, so
even opened.
we've got to get the progress going on this
again. Planning is one thing. Getting people to invest in your plans is quite another. The confidence was not misplaced in this relatively short line carried
But
something
you can
in
see
the
roughly
region
where I
of
am working and what I'm trying to
9.5 million
sort.
passengers in its first year. Well,
So I have things like bags of minifigures here.
Much of the capital was to come from the main line railways that used the Metropolitan. One of these railways was the Great Western Railway, which ran into Paddington and actually supplied the rolling stock and operated the trains over the Met. However, the GWR were of the opinion that if they were going to pay for this extension, they should own a share of it. The Met disagreed. The outcome was that the GWR stormed out, leaving the Met scrabbling for trains. They made a deal with the Great Northern Railway, then bought trains of their own. So the Moorgate extension had gone from something that was seemingly fait accompli.
There we go, that's probably better.
Legally complicated proceeding. Still, it all worked out in the end.
Got this cupboard and putting like screws and just handy things in. You can get all these pins in there.
Merry Christmas, Moorgate. The station back then was known as Moorgate Street and wouldn't gain its current name until 1924.
So I'm trying to look out for these Ziploc bags. If I don't find any in this stream to put more things away in, I'll just pick them up at work, so it's easy enough. So there's other random things like there's a shoe in here that I've stored. We've got this little bag, right?
Back then it was beneath a train shed, not similar to what they've got going on at Barrington. But there was never a dull moment on the Metro.
So we're going to try and get all these figures here away in a bag.
Basically, the problem the Met had was
that all sorts. That turret actually comes from an Attack of the Clones set. Where's the other half of it? Yeah.
Which incidentally had been another point of contention.
But how's everyone, dude? Yo, how's it going?
And at the same time, other companies wanted to run more and more passenger and goods trains over the Met. But there were only so many slots in the timetable, so rather than miss out on fares or fees, the Met built an extra pair of tracks from Barrington to the city.
There's another bag we can use for the minifigures to get them
These are commonly known as the widened
sorted out.
lines. In the modern station, there's a terminating set of tracks that these days no passenger trains call at. Those are the widened lines. As to why no trains call there,
Got a Wookiee minifigure.
Moorgate has
Nice. If you post a picture of it on my community tab, I'll be able to see it.
Sir Edward Watkins called for a great hotel to be built on top of it. No one seems to have taken much notice of this.
Marty McFly can go in there. I should have a bag actually for parts. I mean, that's not the one I'm talking about.
No doubt he anticipated that Moorgate would someday be terminus
Is it?
expresses. But that was all to come. Remember how I mentioned well, what I'd say was the first modern tube line was arrived in 1900. This
No, I believe this is the one.
Now the northern
This is the one. You see, I'll be able to do a longer stream tomorrow, so it makes more sense that I put all these kind of parts in the bag for now.
Like the Metropolitan Railway, this was a success from the start, and the CSLR's directors also contemplated extending, in this case to Islington. This would allow them to get traffic from the North London suburbs, but it would also enable them to get to the Northwood King William Street station, which didn't have capacity for the number of trains they wanted to run. Work began on the
we're good to see it.
1896, and tunnelling as far as Moorgate was completed in 1898. The city of South London
Another bag of minifigures that'll be going back on.
Weren't going to have that station anymore. They decided to build a new HQ above Moorgate, designed by T. Phillips Tiggis. On the 26th of February 1900, City and South London trains ran into Moorgate. However, the company had been a little hasty, and their offices weren't finished yet. So they faced the somewhat embarrassing situation of remaining at King William Street above an abandoned station. Anyway, a little over 6 months later, they were...
But we're just going to continue to clear all this out, see what's what, and go from there.
...seen on the building to this day. Incidentally, one of the early locomotives of the City and South London Railway, number 36, would be preserved on a plinth at the end of the widened lines. But even that wasn't enough for Moorgate. Another underground line was burrowing its way towards the station, And this was the line.
No, I like seeing what you guys post in the community. I think it's pretty cool.
Sometimes called the Big Tube, sometimes called the Moorgate Line. But officially it was called the Great Northern and City Railway. See, one of the companies that used the widened lines was the Great Northern Railway. Their trains steamed into King's Cross down on...
So I'm separating parts out here. That's just bits that come off the pod racers, so at least I know where those are.
The widened lines weren't exactly underused either. The GNCR proposed a tube line wide enough to take full-size trains from Finsbury Park to Moorgate. This would allow the GNR to bypass the busiest part of their railway and get straight into the city. Brilliant, said the GNR. We are so up for that. That's the best idea we've ever heard. Except then they changed their minds. They decided instead to bet everything on a tube line that would eventually...
So there's a bag here where I keep poly bags. So we've got the Shadow Earth Troop in there, the Clone Lieutenants in there, and the TC-14 bagger in there. So, you know, they kind of collect because it keeps those kind of things. Actually, no, I'll put that there because I know exactly what that is.
What about the other? Well, although Moorgate was the original terminus, in 1902, while the line was still under construction, the GNCR would apply for permission to build an extension to Lothbury Street near Bank.
So I'll keep going, right? I'll get all this clear, and then I'll show you guys a progress update.
The extension proved difficult to build.
This is more parts I bought to replace the yellow bits on my Gungan sub. I'm going to make a short out of that.
February 1904, so happy Valentine's Day, Moorgate. The line was frankly a bit of a disaster. As a connection to the Great Northern...
This is a set in question. This is the very yellow, which I need to replace quite a few bits on it, Gungan sub. And I've ordered pretty much what majority of what I need. There'll be a few parts I still need to get. I've just not had the opportunity to go get.
Especially since they
I'll admit, now that I'm picking it up again, I'm noticing other parts on this that probably could do with the same treatment.
Might not have thought much of the big tube, but the Metropolitan liked its vibe. Edward Watkins was long gone, but the Met retained that big railway attitude and saw the big tube as a way of getting into the northern suburbs.
The hell was in the compartment? Ah, it's the binoculars.
They weren't already serving. They bought the GNCR out in 1913. Apparently thought was given to connecting it directly to their line through Moorgate, but of course this never went ahead. Still, it fair put the willies up the Great Northern, who were absolutely insistent that the Met could go no further than Finsbury Park. All this nonsense ended in 1933 when the Met, and the GNCR of course, were taken over by London Transport.
But this is becoming a lot easier, and my goal is to have a video out by the 20th of May. I want to have the room tour. Yeah, I'll welcome the community when we're done here.
London Transport
Just like the main section from the Sebulbas Pod Racer.
Railway branch lines from Finsbury Park and connect them to the GNCR to provide a new route into the city. These plans were never completed, but in 1939 the GNCR became part of the Northern Line, even if it had no direct connection. The Northern City Line, as it's often known these days. Oh yes, and in 1937, the city in South London...
But honestly, I do enjoy what people have been sharing in that community. It is crazy.
I should probably mention that. The war was what did for London Transport's plans, and it made a spirited go of doing for Moorgate Station...
There's a big part of the Sebulbas Pod that's fine. I'll admit, it's not the most structurally sound set, so this is kind of normal for it to do this.
But Moorgate wasn't all that had been affected by bombing. The area around Aldersgate Station, now Barbican, had been almost completely flattened. And so in the 1960s, a new kind of housing estate was built in its place. This was, as you've probably guessed, the Barbican Estate. As part of the redevelopment, the line between Barbican and Moorgate was rerouted, and Moorgate itself was rebuilt. The widened line's platforms were widened to 6 platforms. And as part of the rebuild, the entire station was covered over, which is why it's so gloomy these days. By the 1970s, it was clear that handing the Northern City Line over to the Northern Line had been a waste of time. The programme was going nowhere. The best thing, it seemed to London Transport, was to hand the line over to British Rail to connect it to the main line. British Rail had inherited the main line from the London and North Eastern Railway, who had inherited it from the Great Northern Railway. In other words,
again, it's not the work I wanted to do today, but we're getting something done. Right, so the Gungan sub, in the next week or so, I'll have that short up fixing this. So I hate how it looks.
Fate had a cruel trick to play. On the 28th of February that year, a train ran into platform 9, far faster than it should have done. It ploughed straight into the end of the tunnel. 43 people were killed and 74 were injured. The exact cause remains a mystery to this day, and it is considered the worst peacetime accident on the Underground's network.
Start packing this stuff back into it. A lot of this stuff, like I said, does need repairs. I will kind of just leave it so that it is just models that need fixed. There's no parts, there's no loose minifigures, all that kind of thing's been removed from it.
The northern city platforms and the walls were painted white. And an innovation known as Moorgate Protection was introduced. This is a series of automatic checkpoints, which, if a train passes them too quickly, cause the emergency brakes to be applied. Despite the tragedy, the handover went ahead in the northern city lines.
Hey there.
1976. In 1988, the widened lines platforms gained a new service. Thameslink was a railway intended to use the abandoned Snow Hill Tunnel from Blackfriars to Farringdon, and the widened lines to provide a north-south cross-city train. And so it became one of the Thameslink terminals.
How's it going?
2009. As part of the Thameslink program, trains were extended to about 12 coaches. Unfortunately, that meant that Farringdon's platform would also need to be extended, and the only way to do that was to cut Barbican and Moorgate off. And so, in 2009, the widened lines finally stopped serving Moorgate. In 2013, the now disused platforms gained these diamond-shaped signs for the 150th anniversary of the Tube network. These are replicas of the Metropolitan Railway's 20th century signs, which were a rip-off of the Tube route already in place on the Piccadilly, Bakerloo, Hampstead and District.
But yeah, once I get all this bagged up, I'll show you where we're at. But we've just completely changed it, which is what we wanted.
Hammersmith and City lines still ran between Farringdon and Moorgate. And in 2022, yet another line arrived, the Elizabeth line. Moorgate had another rebuild, including a new entrance to accommodate the newcomer. The new entrance was designed by Wilkinson AR Architects. Now, the Elizabeth Line station at Moorgate is weird because it's actually the Elizabeth Line station at Liverpool Street. But the platform is so long that it touches both stations. There's a similar situation with the Elizabeth Line station at Farringdon, which also serves Barbican. Anyway, this means that Moorgate lost one fancy modern cross-city commuter service and gained a fancy modern city one. So that's the history of Moorgate so far. I told you it was complicated, although frankly it would be a lot simpler if it weren't for the GNCR and the widened lines. While it is one of London's termini, technically it tends these days to be treated as a buried station with a checkered past. As I hope I've shown, there's more to it.
No, no.
Well, I do hope you enjoyed today's buried tale from the Tube. If you did, please do leave a like and consider subscribing for more. Today's main sources were the Metropolitan line, the Underground.
But yeah, I'll show you in a second where we're at, because this is big progress.
Metroland by Irene Hawkes, A History of the Metropolitan Railway by Bill Simpson, The Northern Line by Mike Horn, The Amazing Electric Tube by Prince P. Holman, The Big Tube.
Do you know what it is? It's a shame because I'm feeling motivated to tackle the Colmore shelving, but I know that I won't get it done, and I'll come back from work and it'll be an incomplete mess that I'll have to deal with then. So we're kind of just going to choose not to.
You are the widening to my lines. And I will see you all again very soon. Cheerio.
So, let me show you. So here's what we got to. So this pretty much just builds and everything's been nice and bagged up, which is a damn bit better than what it was. So, you know, that's something I can be happy with. But you know what? I don't want the progress to end, but I also know that I can't go starting, like, you know, I cannot start this today as much as I would really like to. So, I'm thinking about possibly turning my attention over this way. I don't know. That's yet to be decided. Because, you know, there's also the work that needs to remove some things, stuff here before I step up on here. There's obviously still stuff to be decided that needs to go on here. You know, all this, these need to be reattached and stuff like that. I kind of have the Old Republic stuff up here because I thought, you know, video games would be kind of cool. Got a new figure, a new Star Wars action figure on the way to add to this. This is another thing that I'm doing along here. And it'll probably come down here and stuff as well. But, do I decide to tackle this now, or do I leave this one and have a think about how I need to do it? So I need to come up with a new solution, admittedly, to all these video games. Oh, what time are we on? I don't have to leave for another hour, but I think what I'm going to do for that hour is just chill out and possibly get a few shorts done. I don't often do live streams that are this short, but in some cases, look, they're not going to be perfect. But I will see you guys in the next live stream. I'll be happy. Well, I'll be lucky if this one got 50 views. See you guys tomorrow with that live stream.